Okay, hello guys. So today I'm going to start the cost management quiz for AWS Certified Solution Architect examination. So yeah, this is the URL for it. So just let's start this quiz. Okay. So the first question, you are building a Lambda function that run periodically and process the data stored in a DynamoDB. Okay. So this DynamoDB is basically a NoSQL database. As the data in the DynamoDB table grows fast, you need to estimate the cost of the Lambda function. Which of the following factor directly determines the monthly cost of Lambda? Okay, so it has a multiple answers. Select two. Programming language used by Lambda functions. I don't think cost is affected on the programming language used in Lambda functions, so I think this is not the correct answer. Lambda function handlers. Okay, the memory allocated to the Lambda functions. I think this is the cost deciding factor. The timeout value of the Lambda functions. I don't think this is the answer. The total number of requests of Lambda functions. Okay, I think yeah, this might be the answer. This too might be the answer. Next, you use Lambda functions to connect to an Oracle DB RDS and run some long SQL query. Okay, the timeout of the Lambda function is set to 15 minutes, and the function sometimes reaches a timeout. You propose to increase the allocated memory. You propose to increase the allocated memory of the Lambda functions. However, your manager is worried about the cost. How would you answer the question? The cost will not change as the allocated memory does not impact the price. This is wrong because allocated memory does impact the price of Lambda functions. The cost will decrease for sure as total duration of the code execution will be less. Okay, let's go again. The cost will decrease for sure as the total duration of code execution will be less. I don't think it is possible. The cost may not increase as the execution time of the Lambda functions may be less, although you will be charged more for the memory. The cost may not increase as the execution time of the Lambda function may be less. Execution time of the Lambda function may be less, although you will be charged more for the memory. The cost will not change because the number of requests for the function does not change. I think this is the answer. Cost may not increase as the execution time for the Lambda may be less, although you will charge more for the memory. Yes, that's true. Okay, so basically if you're increasing the memory, so the time execution time for the Lambda function will reduce. That's what they're trying to say. Okay, next. In your AWS account, you have configured three application load balancers to route traffic to each AWS. It has a known target group. Okay. Okay, you have configured three application load balancers to route the traffic, and each application load balancer has its own target group. Okay, each application load. So basically, you are having three application load balancer, and each one of them is assigned to. It's been mapped to one target group. As the target keeps growing, the cost of the elastic balancer increased as well. Which method would you take to reduce the cost balancer load balancer cost? Sorry. So configure the application load balancer as the spot one. Okay, spot ones. Use one elastic load balancer instead of three. Attach all three target groups in the ELB. I think this can be done because you can use each elastic load balancer instead of three. Why we need to use three? We can use a single elastic load balancer because it's a managed AWS service. We don't need to use three because it auto scales and um, it's it has its own failover mechanism, so we don't need to explicitly use three elastic load balancer. Move the application load balancers to US East region. I don't think this will work because it doesn't depends upon the region where you run the elastic load balancer. Call doesn't depend upon that. Install a ACM certificate in each elastic load balancer. I don't think this is the answer. So yeah, Correct answer is B. Your team creates an application load balancer for new application and registers a Lambda function as a target. Okay, so your team creates an application load balancer for a new application and registers a Lambda functions as a target. So you have a Lambda functions, and uh, again you have an application load balancer, and it has been registered as a target to the Lambda function. Sorry. So the application load balancer target is the Lambda function. Three ability zones are enabled for application load balancer. You want to take some action to reduce the cost. Which of the following options is most appropriate? Replace the Lambda function with it is EC2 auto scaling group as the ELB target. Enable only one ability zone in the application load balancer. Modify the ELB listener to the TCP with custom port. I think application load balancer doesn't work with TCP. Optimize the load balancer so that the function can execute the code faster. This is the correct answer. Because replace the Lambda function with EC2. No, this might not be the correct answer because anyhow the Lambda functions will be less cheaper than EC2 instances. Enable only one ability zones in the application load balancer. Modify the ELB listener to TCP. Yeah, I think application load balancer doesn't work on TCP protocol. So yeah, next. Let's go next. An application is hosted in AWS EC2 instance in VPC private subnet. Okay, the application frequently downloads a large amount of files stored in S3 bucket. A NAND gateway is configured in a public subnet for EC2 instance to connect with the S3 bucket. Now you need to take some action to reduce the cost of AWS infrastructure. Which method is most appropriate? Okay, an application is hosted in AWS EC2 instance in a virtual private cloud elastic private subnet. Okay, so you have an EC2 instance which is there in the private subnet. So you might know like inside the VPC you can segregate private and public subnet. So private subnet is not connected to the outside world. It's not even connected to internet gateway directly. And the public is basically all the public facing apps can be put inside the elastic load balancer and can access outside application outside internet using the internet gateway. But suppose if you have a application inside your EC2 instance and it needs an internet connection. So in that case, in order to connect the private, in order to establish a link of communication between private to the outside internet, you need to attach a NAND gateway to the subnet. So I think yeah, this is related to that. The application frequently downloads a large amount of files stored in S3 bucket. A NAND gateway is configured in Elastic Subnet for the EC2 instance to connect with S3 bucket. Now you need to take some action to reduce the cost of AWS infrastructure, which modifies which which method is most appropriate. Replace NAT gateway with T2 microNAT instance. Configure a gateway endpoint for S3 bucket. Delete the NAT gateway. I think this will be the correct answer because um, you might be knowing like uh, you can get a NAT. You can also configure a gateway endpoint for S3 bucket. S3 bucket. You don't have to explicitly get an AND gateway for this. Place EC2 instance in the public subnet. Delete the NAND gateway. No, this is not the correct answer. Replace the NAND gateway with the internet gateway. Configure an AWS private link for Amazon S3. I think I have doubt between these two, but the answer will be this one. Let's go to the next one. You're working in a startup company and you need to save the cost of EC2, AWS Market, and AWS Lambda. So, as you know, like this all are the compute functionality provided by AWS services. Uh, Amazon EC2, Fargate, and Lambda functions. So in EC2, you have more control over the network, over the actual compute, and all the underlying hardwares. Fargate and Lambda is basically kind of a serverless architecture. So you're working in a startup company and you to save the cost for these three, EC2, Fargate, and Lambda. You're looking for a flexible pricing model. Okay. For example, you will be charged at the lower rate if you commit for $10 per hour of compute usage, which AWS services can achieve this requirement. What would be the answer? If it is $10 per hour, it is AWS saving plan because you need to notice here like Amazon EC2, Fargate, and Lambda. This three, this three only works with saving plans. It doesn't work with reserve instances. I think reserve instances already. It only works with Amazon EC2. It doesn't work with saving plans. Dedicated host is a completely different thing. You get a dedicated host assigned for yourself on demand of on demand. With if you have to raise a demand to AWS, spot instances is basically used to run small kind of batch processes, which is not that mission critical. So I think this is the correct answer. Okay, let's go next. You create a new EC2 instance as saving plan in the Asia Pacific region, Sydney. Okay, you have committed to $20 of our usage for 1 year. Okay, this is also saving plans. And the instance family selected as C5. Which of the following EC2 instance can get discount? Which of the following EC2 instance can you can get a discount? I think all of them, right? It doesn't saving plan is not dependent upon the type of family, the type of EC2 family you're using. So it can be all of above. So next, the application is hosted in EC2 instance in the server. Serves global customer as the application is getting more and more popular. Data transfer costs keep increasing. Okay. You plan to use AWS CloudFront to improve the latency and reduce the cost. Which of the following server services is free for CloudFront? Data transfer out of the internet from edge location. This is chargeable by CloudFront. Data transfer out of the Amazon cloud. Transfer out of the Amazon cloud to the origin server. I think this is also charged. Data transfer from origin to cloud from edge location. Origin fetch. I think this is not chargeable. Custom SSL certificate associated with CloudFront distribution using dedicated IP. Okay, I think let's see the answer. Okay, okay, see the answer. What is the correct? CloudFront is a content delivery network. We all know that services that offers a simple pay-as-you-go pricing model for the Amazon CloudFront pricing detail. Please check the below reference. This is the one. Okay. Cloud and option A and option B are incorrect because the data transfer out of the internet or the origin is not free. A different rate is charged depending upon the region. Okay. Option C is correct. If CloudFront origin is hosted in AWS like EC2, the origin fetches are free. Option D, because of each custom SSL certificate associated with one or more CloudFront distribution, using the dedicated IP version of custom SSL certificate support, you can be charged around $600 per month. Okay. Your application is deployed in EC2 instance and use CloudFront to deliver the content in order to reduce the cost of the request to the origin. You plan to increase the cache distribution in CloudFront with certain dynamic content. Which of the following options is more appropriate to achieve the requirement? Modify the modify the application to add a cache control header to control how long the object stays in the CloudFront cache. In CloudFront distribution, enlarge the default TTL in the object caching. Specify the minimum TTL to be 0. Add a cache header to configure meta data of S3. This is really difficult. Let's see the answer. The correct answer is A because cache control of headers added by the origin serves can be used to control the caching behavior in CloudFront. Cache control header added to the origin server can be used to control the caching behavior in the cloud. The application is responsible for adding the header for individual objects. Option B is correct because the default TTL packs all objective. The origin does not add the cache header. However, in the question, only certain dynamic content needs to be modified. Because cache, okay, because the cache distribution is not increased by setting the value DTL to 0. The question mentioned that the cache duration and dynamic content needs to be increased. However, S3 bucket belongs to static content. Expiration. Okay, let's see this. Yeah, we will see this documentation afterwards. Let's finish this first. You use CloudFormation to create an auto-scaling group for web application. You use CloudFormation to create an auto-scaling group for a web application. The application needs to be deployed in both non-prod and production AWS document. You want to use a spot instance in non-prod environment to save cost. Which of the following method will you choose? In CloudFront template, you use a variable to set on-demand percentage of base capacity property. Set the variable to 100. Okay, on-demand percentage above base capacity. Set a variable to 100 in non-prod and 0 in production. Okay, interesting. One on-demand percentage above base capacity property. On-demand percentage above. Set the parameter on-demand percentage above base capacity. Above the base capacity. I think it should be B. In cloud formation template, use a parameter for spot max price property. Set the parameter to 100. Max price property. I think this might also be the answer. Set the parameter to 100 in non-prod. Max price. Set the parameter to be 0.5 in non-prod and on-demand price. I think this might also be the answer. I'm not sure. Okay, let's submit. Submit. You want to save your choices. No. Submit. Submit. Yes. Thanks for participating. Oh, nice. I passed. Okay. Thanks a lot. Let's review this in the next video.